want to start right out of the gates today talking about the Greater Tampa Association of Realtors statistics that came out for June of 17. And, you know, I think first and foremost, the very first thing that we noticed as a group here was the rise in the average sale price in Tampa Bay to $273,000. That's the highest that it's been in my real estate career, even through the ramp up and the bust. Wow. So $273,000. Interestingly, in January it was $237,000. So I mean, you see the rise in prices this year because of the lack of supply. Only 2.2 months of inventory. We were at 4.5 months of inventory in January. So literally, inventory supply and demand curve cut in half from January to June. And comparably, last year in June, we had about 3.1 months of inventory, so about a 50% haircut in inventory from then. So the buyers that are out there seeing the bidding wars and frustration over lack of homes available and homes selling for more than they appraise, all those types of things, it ties right back to the rise in price and the drop in supply. Homes continuing to sell at a pretty quick pace. 55 is the average days on market. I ran a statistical query for an ad we're running on Facebook, and I saw our median days on market was 14.
Oh wow,
which is
that's
awesome. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
So I mean, compared to 55 for the market, and then the 97% differential list to sell price, we were at 99. We had some homes sell for more than 10% above the asking price in the last few months. So we're outpacing the market by 2 percentage points currently, over the last few months on list to sell price ratio, and then 3 times faster, maybe almost 4 times faster.
Good reason to list with the Duncan duo.
Exactly. We're going to sell faster and for more money based on what we're looking at as average statistics. 3,616 home sales. Again, by far the highest number we've seen. Last month, we're higher than last month, which was really high, but 3,616 is the highest number that we've seen in a decade in terms of number of sales. And it was a bump up from last year. Last June we were at 3,268. So last June we were at 257,000 on average sale price this year. Or excuse me, not 257, 250. And this year we're at 273. So 10% bump in the average sale price year over year. Seasonally, this is always our peak season. June, July, even into August. Our market performs very strong, and then in Tampa we usually have kind of a blip at the end of the year where December is usually pretty strong. So statistically, market looking healthy, prices continuing to rise. For all the naysayers that think the crash is coming, there's nothing statistically that shows that yet. Still having really, really low inventory. The sign of a market heading in the wrong direction is when you have a lot more inventory than we have. We don't have enough homes to sell. Even if there was an economic slowdown, there's so few homes to sell that it wouldn't impact the real estate market for a long time. So it's a really slow process in terms of how real estate as a market shifts. So Michael Barbino is the team leader and broker for our Sarasota office on North Tamiami Trail. And Michael, I wanted to talk a little bit about how the differences between Tampa and Sarasota from a statistical standpoint, I think are many.
Yeah, I mean, well, Tampa, you're coming up with the price. You're getting into our Manatee County price of $299 and Sarasota about $260. So you've definitely made a huge jump.
Yeah, which is interesting because Sarasota has always been thought of as a pricier market, and Tampa's starting to catch it with some of its luxury neighborhoods.
Absolutely, but the inventory is the big difference. We're anywhere from low 4s, 4.2, 4.5 to 5.5 months of inventory, which is still textbook technically. It's still a seller's market, but since it was so low at one point, it really feels like a buyer's market that there's so much inventory when there's really not.
Comparatively, I mean, if you look at it compared to Tampa, it's double the inventory or more than what we're seeing in Tampa, with the supply and demand curve. Seasonally too, Tampa, this is our peak season. In Sarasota Bradenton, this isn't the peak season. This is when inventory does creep up some.
Yeah, it definitely does, but we still do dictate to schools and families that are looking to make a move by August so that kids can be in a new school. And we're definitely driven by some new construction, being Lakewood Ranch being one of the largest new communities in the country.
It's interesting because when I always like to preface things by saying, when I say something, it doesn't mean it applies to everything. It doesn't mean it's everywhere, but Sarasota is a little bit more of a seasonal market where you have a big bump in the cooler months because of how many vacation buyers Sarasota gets compared to Tampa as a percentage. But that doesn't mean there aren't families out there moving in the summer just like there are in Tampa.
Correct. The numbers definitely, are a little skewed, especially when those condos are rented seasonally and then they come on the market come May and June, and suddenly we have all this inventory that wasn't on the market because it was rented, at a premium for the season. So it's a little skewed, I think, in that as well.
One of the things that was important for us when we decided to branch out and open Sarasota was that seasonality split, knowing that peak season would be different in the two markets. But there's still a lot of agents that live in Tampa that don't live in that market that are operating and selling homes there. And I think we learned that firsthand, a few years ago before we fully opened, and we'd have customers that would look down at Bradenton, Sarasota, and it really is, even though it's in the same MSA, same TV and radio market, it is a drastically different real estate market.
Oh, I mean, from
everything,
from contracts to title to inventory to the snowbird season.
Yeah. And we certainly have a vacation home market here in Tampa, but it's not nearly the percentage of the number of sales that it is in Sarasota. And we don't have, when you get onto Anna Maria Island and some of the coastal stuff in Sarasota, you get into some really uber expensive real estate. And we don't have as much of that. Well, let me put it this way: we have as much because our market's bigger, but the ratio of high-end sales to average sales is much higher there than it is here. So we might have as many high-end sales, just proportionally it's lower.
Correct. When you sell a $5 million property up here, it hits the papers as a record or another high end where that could just be a regular sale on Anna Maria or Longboat.
Yeah, it's a typical